Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's live stream. And before we get started, I would like to apologize for ending the live stream on Thursday abruptly because of a bad, persistent cough that was impossible to control at the moment. I want to say so sorry for any inconvenience caused. And thank you so much for your consent, for your care. I got your messages, about wanting to know how I was doing, how I was faring. I'm doing a lot better. As you can see, we're still working on the voice, but I decided to show up this evening because I can't afford to keep you guys waiting, for too long. So hope we're going to have an amazing time. And so, without wasting much of our time, I want us to get straight into what we have for today. Hmm. Well, I'm Adenike Shokumbi, and this is Bold Money Moves. It's a place where you need to be if you want to take control of your finances and build real wealth. And today, I'm particularly very thrilled and excited about the topic that I'm sharing on catalyzing your goals to crush them in 2025, in the second half of 2025. And, I'm still trying to wrap my head around how that we are in August. It's August 4th today. And for me, it still feels like yesterday. Doesn't it feel like yesterday? We were welcoming the year 2025. And here we are now, more than halfway through the year 2025. And the big question is, the 2025 hit the fast forward button for you too? I know for some of us, the past 7 months, the first half of the year, has been a period of smash goals, executed plans, and even accomplished projects. But if you're here, you're watching me, you're listening to me right now, and you feel like the year 2025 sneaked up on you, you're feeling like your goals didn't pan out according to your plans, or maybe you're just simply disappointed or even frustrated about the progress that you made in the first half of the year. All I can tell you now is it is okay. It is okay because it's natural to feel a bit of tension, disappointment, anxiety, and even frustration, especially when our goals don't pan out according to plan. What will not be okay, however, will be you focusing on the past, dwelling on the past, fixating on what could have been, and then blaming yourself, wallowing in guilt and regret, and allowing anxiety, disappointment, and even frustration, and whatever the complex emotion you are having to navigate, allowing those emotions have the upper hand. And so, one thing about the first half of the year is already in the past. There is nothing that you can do or not do to undo what is already done or rewrite what is already written. So why would you want to waste that precious energy on fixating on the past that is beyond your control? Why would you want to waste that precious energy on an outcome that is beyond your control? One thing that I usually tell people is, if your past is calling you and your present is calling you, always pick the call of the present. And that's because your past has nothing new to tell you. There's nothing in your past that you're not already aware of. Because if you're always swinging more to the past than to the present, that forges the future, eventually you're going to put yourself in a situation where you are stuck, where you are stagnated, where you're not making progress. But what if you could redirect that energy? What if you can channel that energy to something more productive? What if you could take all of that energy you're using to fuel disappointment, regret, guilt, blame, frustration, and all those complex emotions? What if you could take that energy and redirect it to accomplishing something so incredible so incredible that it sets you up for massive success in the coming months. And not just for the coming months alone, but also compensate for the lost time or resources, for the first half of the year. So what if you could take that energy and redirect it towards embracing the present with the incredible opportunities that it brings for a fresh beginning? And that's the very core of the conversation we are having today. It's the core of the conversation we are having tonight. And I have a question for you. Have you ever set big, ambitious goals before, only to find yourself stuck, disappointed, frustrated, and ultimately not being able to accomplish those goals? You have been told to dream big, you have been told to think big, you have been told to set big goals, but even that bigness feels so impossible. You see, that exact struggle, showed up in a recent session I led on goal crushing. A recent session I led on goal crushing. And it's a frequently asked question. It's a question that I hear very often. And the participant said, I set huge goals. I set big goals because I've been told that goals needs to be challenging. Goals needs to be challenging. They shouldn't be small. But the reality is, I'm not able to accomplish my big goals. What am I doing wrong? What can I do differently? What can I do to achieve my big goals? Why does my big goal feel so impossible? Why does my big goal feel so impossible? And that profound question right there leads us to the very heart of our conversation today. And if that resonates with you, you might want to come closer because this conversation is especially for you. And before I, get into the conversation, I would like for us to also consider the flip side of that question. There's a flip side of that question. So there are some people that their own is they are meeting their realistic and achievable goals. They are able to accomplish their realistic and achievable goals. But the challenge is they feel stuck. The challenge is they feel stuck, they feel stagnated, they feel like they are not making progress, even though they are accomplishing their realistic and achievable goal. And so, what does such a person need to do? Or what are we expecting such people, to do to be able to achieve their realistic goals and make progress? So, in today's conversation, it's going to be about how we can actually actualize our goals. And the core of the problem often lies in a misunderstanding of what a big, realistic, and achievable goal is. The core of the problem often lies in what people perceive a big, realistic, and achievable goal as. So most times when people hear goals shouldn't be small, goals should be challenging, they in turn set a dream goal. They in turn set a dream goal. And you may be asking, what is the difference? A dream goal is a wish goal. A dream goal is a wish goal. And what is a wish goal? A wish goal is a goal without a plan. It's a goal without a clear starting point, a goal without an actionable first step, a goal without a clear blueprint. It feels so big that it doesn't have a starting point. It feels so big that it invites perpetual frustration even before you even begin with the goal. A dream goal could very well pass for a fantasy goal, just wishful thinking. Just wishful thinking. And so, what then is a big goal? What then is a big goal? A big goal is actually a goal that is big enough to challenge who you currently are. A big goal is a big that is big enough, that is challenging enough, right? To challenge who you currently are. A big goal is a goal that is big enough to stretch your present, limits, to stretch your present boundaries. Remember, a big goal must be big enough to challenge who you currently are. It must be big enough to stretch your boundaries. And it must be grounded enough to be possible. And what does that mean? It means it must be grounded enough that you can begin, that it has a first actionable step. Because any dream that doesn't have a first actionable step could very well pass for a fantasy. And so, what's the flip side of a dream goal? What's the flip side of a dream goal? The flip side of a dream goal is what I like to refer to as the small goal trap. The small goal trap. And in the small goal trap, we have people who, in an attempt to set a goal that is realistic and achievable, people who, in an attempt to set a realistic and achievable goal, end up setting a small goal. And so, what's a small goal? A small goal is, more or less an easy peasy goal, a goal that doesn't present any difficulty at all. It doesn't present any true challenge. It's a goal that even with your eyes closed, you can follow through with a small goal. It's a goal that you don't have to break a sweat to achieve. It's actually born from convenience. A small goal is actually born from the comfort zone. So it's like something very easy to do, like ABC. And when it comes to a small goal, the very definition of a small goal is a goal that is strictly within the confines of the known, familiar, and charted territory. And I'm going to explain in a bit. Please, I want to take some water to help my throat is getting drier. So, sorry. All right, so we're back. So I said a small goal is that goal that is strictly within the confines of known, familiar, and charted territory. And I'm going to explain what I mean by known, familiar, and charted territory. By known refers to skills that you've already mastered. Known refers to skills you've already mastered. Those skills that have become like easy peasy, even if they wake you from your sleep, as in you don't have to think about it, you just get it done. Skills you've already mastered, processes that have become routine, processes that have become like ABC. You don't need to break a sweat to follow through with the processes that have become routine. And then outcome that you command effortlessly, outcomes you command effortlessly, or results that you create effortlessly without making use of conscious resource, without making use of conscious effort. Skills you've mastered, processes that have become routine, talking about known now, and outcomes that you command effortlessly without making use of conscious resources. Those are the things that fall into the category of the known. Then we have the familiar. And the familiar speaks to places, people, and environments where surprises are rare. People, places, and environments where surprises are rare. In the familiar, everything feels predictable. Everything feels predictable. The familiar does not spark curiosity nor creativity. The familiar does not spark curiosity nor creativity. Everything that happens in the familiar is very highly predictable. And then we have the charted territory. And this one speaks to a path that is already clearly mapped out. You know the in and out of that path. And doesn't present any significant room for innovation. It doesn't present any significant room for innovation. I'm reminded of many years ago, about I think 25 years ago, I was at a conference and then I was listening to this American preacher, Mike Murdoch, and he said something that, struck me. He said something that struck me. And it wasn't like, I've not heard a similar sentiment before. But I think it was the way he said it. And somehow I felt attacked. Like, what is this, man saying? As in, like, okay, so make it make sense. And what did he say? It was a quote that I've heard before, but he said it differently. He said it's sheer lunacy to continue to do the same thing the same way and expect a different result. It's sheer lunacy to continue to do the same thing the same way and expect a different result. So prior to that time, I've heard people say, oh, you can't continue to do the same thing and expect a different outcome. You can't continue to do the same thing and expect a different result. But this time was, that was bearable. Like, okay, you can't continue to do the same thing. But the moment my Murdoch said it's sheer lunacy to continue to do the same thing the same way and want a different result, I interpreted it to be, I must be crazy. That's the literal, definition I give. Like, I must be crazy to continue to do the same thing, and I'm expecting that my outcome is different. It means I don't know what I'm doing. Like, if I'm doing the same thing and I'm expecting a different outcome, and more often than not, I've come across people who continue to do the same thing they've always done. They continue to be in the same environment they've always been. They continue to be with the same people they've always been with. They continue to have the same exposure they've always had. And then they are expecting their outcome to change. How does that make sense? Input equals output. If I don't like the outputs I'm getting, it means I can't attack output. I have to go back to my input and check the input I'm putting. If I'm not getting the output I'm getting, then it's time to change my input. So you see people who continue to be in the same place, they continue to be with the known, the familiar, charted territory, and they're expecting a different outcome with their lives. They are expecting things to magically just change for them without changing their inputs. Many people want to change their lives, but they are unwilling to commit to the process that delivers the change that they desire. And the truth about life is, life doesn't give us what we desire. We are not giving what we desire. We are giving what we deserve. It's a principle of life. Input will always be equal output. Input will always be equal output. If I don't like the output I'm getting, I will need to change my inputs. And now that I've talked about what a dream goal is and what the flip side of a dream goal is, which is the small goal trap, I know one other question that may be on your mind is, so what then is an ideal goal? What then is an ideal goal? When it comes to an ideal goal, you must be able to strike a balance. To have an ideal goal, you must be able to strike a balance. And that balance will mean that you come up with a goal that is not too comfortable. You come up with a goal that is not too comfortable, is not too easy, is not too um, is not too convenient, that it breeds complacency and mediocrity. It's not too comfortable, easy, and convenient that it breeds complacency. But you must be grounded enough to be possible. You must be stretching enough to demand that you step into the realm of your unproven yet attainable capabilities. To set an ideal goal, I'll go over that again. To set an ideal goal, you must be able to strike a balance. And that balance means that you must be able to come up with a goal that is not so convenient, easy, comfortable, that it breeds complacency and mediocrity. And that goal must also be stretching enough to demand that you step out, to demand that you step into the realm of your unproven yet attainable capabilities. So the flip side of that question of, oh, I set huge goals, but I'm not able to accomplish them, is I set realistic goals, I set achievable goals, I'm able to accomplish them, but I am not making progress, but I am stuck. So why is someone achieving their goals and yet they are not making progress? It means that they set a small goal. They set a small goal, because when you set a small goal, it doesn't take certain things into consideration, because a small goal, like we have discussed, will only take the familiar, the known, and charted territory. So if your goals stays within the confines of known, familiar, and charted territory, they might be achievable. They might be achievable, but those goals will not push you to develop new capabilities. They might be achievable, but they will not push you, they will not stretch you to discover new solutions. They might be achievable, but they will not push you to expand your personal, business, or even professional horizon. And what does that mean? It means you're leaving growth on the table. And so somebody who has come up with a small goal has a goal and has not factored in a growth-oriented objective. Because the truth of the matter is, our goals are supposed to evolve us. And every goal that you set that doesn't take into cognizance your latent capabilities is a small goal. I'm still going to talk about that much later. It's a small goal. So if your goals are not evolving you, what are they doing? It means they are diminishing you. I've been in sessions with people that the salary they were earning from before this new administration, Tinubu administration, came into power. I see the same salary. And I'm like, relatively, you've retrogressed. If you see the same salary, because things have skyrocketed since then. Things have skyrocketed since then. And if your goals is always within the realm of known, familiar, and charted territory, you will continue to put yourself in a situation where you become desperate. Because everything is always within, what is comfortable, what is convenient. What if there's a change that happens that demands that you step out of the realm of your comfort zone? Then it becomes, a problem. It becomes a big challenge. You're no longer able to follow through with taking responsibility for the things that you will usually take responsibility for, because the landscape has changed. And so our goals, we cannot afford for our goals to reside within the confines of just the known, the familiar, and charted territory alone. And like I said earlier about the ideal goal, you must be able to strike a balance. You must be able to strike a balance. And when it comes to an ideal goal or a realistic goal, as whatever it is you like to call it, whether realistic goal and ideal goal, is I consider it as a two-edged sword. I consider a realistic goal as a two-edged sword that encompasses your current operational capacity, and your untapped potential. So an ideal goal must factor in your current operational capacity and your unexplored potential. And so the two sides of the sword, the first edge is the realistic in the realm of the realistic in the realm of the explored. Realistic in the realm of the explored. Realistic in the realm of the explored. And that speaks to your current operational capability. It takes into consideration your current resources, skills, and existing exposure. It considers your current bandwidth and the available tools. I mean, the things that you already have, and how to effectively take advantage, how to effectively utilize, how to effectively make use of what is currently at your disposal much more efficiently and effectively. The realm of the realistic in the realm of the explored speaks to your current potential. It speaks to your current resources, what you already have, what you already engage in, but that you might not be engaging maximally. And then we also have the other side, the other edge of the sword. And this one is the realistic in the realm of your unexplored. The realistic in the realm of the unexplored or your unexplored. And this one speaks to your latent capabilities, the things that you're capable of achieving, but because you have not stretched yourself, because you have not pushed yourself, you are yet to, unfold that aspect of your life. You are yet to evolve that aspect of your life. And so an ideal goal or a realistic goal is that goal that doesn't just take into consideration your present or current operational capabilities, but also takes into consideration or acknowledges what you are capable of doing, what you're capable of having. And to put it differently, the ideal goal doesn't just consider who you currently are. Even though it considers who you currently are, it also acknowledges who you are capable of becoming. It doesn't just consider what you currently have, but also consider what you're capable of having, especially if you give yourself to learning, if you give yourself to innovating, if you give yourself, to stepping out of the realms of your comfort zone. And so to have a goal that grows you, is important that you consider the realistic in the realm of the explored and the realistic in the realm of the unexplored. And I want to believe that you understand what an ideal goal truly is now. And so what you want to do at the end of this session is to go back and look at the goals that you have set for the year through the lens of today's teaching and make necessary adjustments wherever necessary. So I want to believe that to a large extent, I've been able to, cover the foundation. I've been able to explain what, an ideal goal is and what are the factors, to consider, what are the things to consider when you want to set a goal that is an ideal goal. And so I want us to move on to what it is that you need to do to be able to catalyze your goal. What it is that you need to do. Remember, the topic is crushing your goals in the second half of 2025. Crushing your goals in the second half of 2025. Then underneath it, we have the catalytic method. So I'm going to be talking about what you need to do so that once you have been able to come up with your ideal goal, we only have 5 months left before this year is officially over. So there's no time to waste. You don't have any time, to take chances and all of that. Because if you want to get the outcome that you desire, you must be willing to put in the work that is required. Because at the end of the day, the outcome that will be handed over to you is the one you deserve, not the one that you desire. So how do you catalyze your goals? How do you catalyze your goals? Okay, so let's talk about catalyst now. And I'm going to take you to a bit of chemistry, but don't worry, I'm not about to bore you some chemistry details, but just wanting to drive home my point. So the first time I heard about catalyst was maybe over 28 years ago in secondary school in chemistry class. They were teaching us chemical reaction and what it takes for a chemical reaction to happen. And so we were also made to understand that for a chemical reaction to happen, it has to happen within a given time frame. A chemical reaction happens within a given time frame. But there are things you can actually do to speed up the rate at which a chemical reaction happens. There are things you can do to speed up the rate at which a chemical reaction happens. And to be able to speed up a chemical reaction, we were told to introduce a catalyst. And so a catalyst is something that you introduce to speed up the rate at which a chemical reaction happens. So if you want to, it's more or less like something you introduce to accelerate the process. Something that you introduce to accelerate a process. So in the context of the discussion we are having, the conversation we are having, how can you accelerate your goals? How can you catalyze your goals? What are the things that you need to do for you to be able to accomplish your goals speedily? What are the things you need to do for you to accomplish your goals speedily? One, like in a chemical reaction, you need to be able to firstly identify what is the chemical reaction. What is the chemical reaction that you want to make happen? And in the context of our goals, what that would mean is you need to identify what is the goal that you want to set. You need to identify what is the goal that you want to set. And now you know what an ideal goal is. So that is sorted. So what is the goal that you want to set? And once you've been able to come up with what the goal is, the next thing is prioritization and focus. And what does that mean? You need to now prioritize your goals. You need to now focus on the goals that you have set. What is the goal you want to set? Yes, exactly. What is the goal you want to set? And once you have been able to come up with the goal that you want to set, then you have to now prioritize that goal. You have to now focus on that goal. And this is where I say you now need to be ruthless in eliminating distractions. You now need to be ruthless in eliminating distraction. And when it comes to, distractions, some people kind of think that a distraction has to be bad for it to be a distraction, but it's a no-no. A distraction does not have to be bad for it to be a distraction. It doesn't have to be bad. A distraction is anything that keeps you from focusing on your goals. A distraction is anything that keeps you from focusing on your goals. And there's this story in the Bible. I'm a Jesus girl, so you can't separate me and the Bible. So it's a guy in the Bible, Nehemiah. His name was Nehemiah. So he was building. And many times people came to him like, oh, there's this other thing we want you to attend to and all of that. But every time they came multiple times, several times. But every time they came to him, his answer was the same. I am doing a greater work. I cannot come down. So your goal is the greater work. And no matter how important the other things are looking, the distractions are looking, you are doing a greater work. Yes, the distraction might be a great work, but I am doing a greater work. That was Nehemiah's answer to them. I am doing a greater work. I cannot come down. You need to also answer your distractions in that same manner that Nehemiah did. You need to answer your distraction that way. I'm doing a great work. I cannot calm down. You need to master the art of saying no. There are people, they don't know how to say no. And me, I think I've perfected that art. They don't know how to say no. Even when their goals are suffering, they don't know how to say no. When their visions are suffering, they don't know how to say no. Like, oh, how will I say no? If you are surrounded yourself with people that you can't tell no, you might want to evaluate those relationships again, because it takes a level of maturity to come into that place where you refuse to be distracted of what you should be concentrating on, what you should be focused on. There was something we were taught in economics class in secondary school. Now, like I'm taking us back, taking us back to those days. They taught us opportunity cost. It means that for everything you are doing, there's something you are not doing. For everything you're doing, there's something you're not doing. For every A you're doing, there's a B that is the alternative for God. For every C you're not doing, there is a D that you're doing. So it's either you're focused on your dream or you're focused on your distractions. And so you have to master, like I said earlier, the art of saying no to protect your focus. Oh, you struggle to say no. Please, sir. You have to step up. We are waiting for you. Like, no, it's something that we need to develop to come to that place where we are able to say, because of this that I'm doing, which is a greater work, please, even though what you have brought for me to attend to is a great work. But until I'm done with this, I'm not coming down here. So moving away from prioritization and focus, we said identify your goals, then prioritize and focus. There's such a thing in chemical reaction. There's such a thing as what's it now? Activation energy. So for a given chemical reaction to happen, you must be able to overcome the activation energy. And so let me explain what's the activation energy. The activation energy is like the resistance or barrier that doesn't want the chemical reaction to happen. The activation energy is the barrier, is the resistance that doesn't want that reaction to happen. So if you want to make a chemical reaction happen speedily, you need to also you need to understand what is my activation energy. Like, what is the activation energy? What is the barrier, the resistance I'm up against? What is the resistance? What is the barrier I'm up against? One of the mistakes that people make when they are setting their goals is they don't anticipate the challenges that comes with that goal they are setting. They think, oh, okay, because you have set it as a goal, it's just going to, be easy peasy. It's just going to be accomplished without any difficulty presented. And so when they meet with the first challenge, they are quick to give up. Yes, identify the resistance you're up against. So they are quick to give up once they meet resistance, like, no, I was expecting that this thing, it should just go as planned. Right now, I can't continue. I don't even like disappointment. Hey, I don't like to fail. What is this one? You must know what you're up against. And failure is not the opposite of success. Failure is actually part of success, because if you want to accomplish something great, if you want to succeed greatly, you must be willing to also fail greatly as well. There's no one who has ever accomplished anything great that didn't start, with failure. Everything we've learned how to do now. When you're a baby, or okay, you might not even have, you might not remember when you were a 1 year old, but at least we have children. We know that the first step, the day they started walking, it wasn't the first day they took their first step. They are taking steps, they are falling, they are taking the body continued. And that was how we also started. So people can balance on one leg conveniently now, but there was a time that they were babies too, and they were learning to take steps, they were falling, but yet they didn't give up. And even for how we talk eloquently now, we are speaking, it was a time, it was blah, 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 ma, ba, 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 ba. And eventually see how we mastered to talk. And so when it comes to our goals, why is it that, we don't want to fail? And when I'm talking about failure, I'm not talking about basic failure, but that's a conversation for another day. I'm not talking about basic failure. There are some failures that, is a stupid failure, for lack of better words, right? I'm talking about, failure on your way to accomplishing your goals. And so you need to identify what are the things that will make it impossible for me to accomplish these goals that I've set. What are the things that will be the barrier? What are the bottlenecks? What are the hurdles? What are the hurdles? And once you have been able to identify what those barriers are for you, the next thing is to now begin to look at, okay, so what do I need to do to mitigate them? So before the challenges even show up, you already anticipated them. And that once these challenges come, okay, this is how I'm going to mitigate it. When you are faced with challenge, you already know what to do. When you are faced with challenge, you already know what to do. It's not as daunting anymore. It's not as daunting, it's not as overwhelming anymore because you know what to do. And so you must be able to understand what your activation energy is, the resistance, the barrier that you are up against, and moving away from there. It is now time to introduce your catalyst. You see, identify your goals, identify your chemical reaction, understanding your activation energy, understanding the resistance, the barriers, the hurdles, the bottlenecks, the limitations, the things that will stop you, right, on your way to accomplishing that goal. And okay, now looking at what it is you can do to mitigate those things. And then now you can now introduce your catalyst because you have an understanding. You can now introduce your catalyst because you have an understanding. And the catalyst that you introduce is very much dependent on what your barrier is. The catalyst I have to introduce is different from the one that you have to introduce. You are not up against the same thing. Our goals are different, just like our phases are different. So you know what your goals are. You know what are the barriers, what are the resistance, what are the limitations that will be in front of you that will make it impossible for you to achieve your goal. And it is time to now introduce the catalyst. Yes, introduce your catalyst. And we have different kinds of barrier. For some people, it might be procrastination. For some people, it might be as anxiety. For some people, it might be fear of failure. For some people, it might be self-doubt, limiting belief. For some, as in, the list is endless. But when it comes to procrastination, because I know that quite a number of people struggle with that. And procrastination is actually not the real problem. Anxiety is the real problem. Anxiety, what if I fail? What if it does not go out according to plan? What if, eventually I now put in effort, and what if I aim so high and I eventually fall? As in, all of those limiting thoughts. All of those limiting thoughts is what makes people push to tomorrow what they should do today. And so for something that you should do today, you're pushing to tomorrow. Something you should do this week, you are pushed to next week. Something you should do next week, you are pushed to next month. And before you know it, you are pushed to next year. And 5 years down the line, you are still not able to accomplish that which you have set out to do. What happened in the case, challenges are unforeseen and necessary, different from what you thought was the challenge. Yeah, even in cases where you go through an experience where unexpected challenges show up, because the truth of the matter is, no matter how much you anticipate what the challenges will be, something can show up and it's not exactly what you planned for. So what do you now do? What do you now do? One thing to answer that question, I would say that when, people usually say, oh, I've put in my best. I've met people in recent time like, I don't really know. And I've tried this, I've tried that. All of that is not still working. Life is not meant to be lived alone. There's no challenges. When the Bible says there's nothing new under the sun, there's no challenges that you're facing. It's just like a child that is learning to walk. And the child, is learning to walk, falling, rising, and all of that. The parent has gone through that before. Similarly, whatever challenges that you're faced with is not new. And that is why people who accomplish great things will stand on the shoulders of mentors, people that have gone ahead of you. Yes, something overwhelming, yes, because it's not something you've gone through before. But being in an accountability system, for instance, leveraging the experience of mentors. So you have someone in your life. So whatever it is you're trying to do, that guy called procrastination is a problem. Is a problematic candidate. Yes, so it is. It is really a problematic candidate that does not want us to be great. But we also will not give that problematic candidate to have his way. We must become ruthless, right? We must become ruthless. And so we need to be able to stand on the shoulders of those that have gone ahead of us. You don't have all the years. How many years? At least at most 100 or 120 years. You don't have all the years to learn by experience. You don't have all the years to learn by experience. Stand on the shoulders of those that have gone ahead of you in that path that you're trying to forge. Somebody else has gone ahead. So why not leverage their experience so that you can also avoid some bumps, right? You don't have to make the same mistakes they made. If they tell you how they navigated, the situation or the struggle. And so we talked about identifying your goal, prioritizing your goal, and focusing on your goals, becoming ruthless in eliminating distraction. We've talked about understanding what your activation energy is, what is the resistance, the limitation, the barrier, the hurdles, the bottlenecks that you're up against, right? And then to introducing your catalyst. And to overcome procrastination, you might want to give yourself to time management skills and productivity hacks. Time management skills, and productivity hacks. There are several things you can do, like time blocking, dedicating a block of your time, a certain block of your time to fulfilling the task that has to do with the accomplishment of the goals that you have set. And in setting goals, yes, it has to be big, it has to be challenging, but it must have a first step, an actionable first step. You must have an actionable first step. So dedicating blocks of your time to accomplishing the task that you have set out, for that goal. You can also practice task batching because there is a mental fatigue that is as a result of doing unrelated tasks simultaneously. So you might want to batch similar tasks, or you need to put a post on Twitter, you need to put something on Instagram, you need to send an email, do something on WhatsApp, do something on Telegram. You can batch those similar tasks together. You know what your routine is. You know what your routine is. And what are the tasks that you need to, handle. So you know how to, batch them, that you're doing tasks that are similar because it will reduce mental fatigue. And for those whose goals feel daunting, like every time, you want to start, you just feel, this thing, so the next 4 hours now and all of that. You can decide to use the Pomodoro technique. I was listening to Elon Musk the other day, and then he mentioned that technique, that he uses it. And that's how he's able to stay efficient and do the things that he does. And I want to also practice the Pomodoro technique, where you are doing focus work. So you batch your time into for 4 hours. You do 25 minutes of focus work and then take 5 minutes buffer, take 5 minute break or rest, right? Do 25 minutes work, take 5 minutes rest. Rest is actually part of work because it helps to boost your productivity. So do 25 minutes of focus work and take rest until your 4 hour cycle is completed. And once the 4 hour cycle is completed, you now take a break of 30 minutes stretch. And then before you go on to the next 4 hours, and then you repeat the same process. So to manage your time, you must also understand your peak productivity hours. There's such a thing as energy cycle. So many people don't know. You have an energy cycle, I have an energy cycle, and maybe be different from yours as well. So, and what is the energy cycle? The energy cycle speaks to your peak productivity hours, hours that you are most productive. Mine is in the mornings. I'm most productive in the mornings, and maybe sometimes midnight. I mean, early hours of midnight, right? Yes, but in the mornings, that's my own peak productivity hours. You want to understand your energy cycle, identify your peak productivity hours, and leverage it. And leverage it. You must understand yourself. For you to be able to accomplish or actualize your goals, you must be able to understand yourself, understand how your body functions. so that you'll not be putting things, pushing things to the afternoon, whereas your peak productivity hours is in the morning. And like I said earlier on, you have to master the art of saying no to distraction without feeling guilty. And one other thing that you can also do to be able to catalyze your goals is to take advantage of, accountability systems. You want to be part of an accountability system, especially for someone that you are not able to really follow through with your goal. You set a financial goal or a family goal or a relationship goal, whatever is the goal for the year, and you find out that year in, year out, you are not able to follow through with the goals that you have set. How about having an accountability partner? How about being in an accountability system? Having an accountability group, the people that are able, oh, yours is in the night, beautiful. So the people that will be able to hold you accountable, that will tell you, you said you were going to do this. What's happening? That thing you said you are going to do, why are you not doing it? Oh, this first quarter, you should have done this, you should have done that. We all need that. We all need that, people that will hold you accountable to do the things that you said you will do. So it's important that if we want to truly, be in that place where we are accomplishing our goals, morning guys, we are together. So if you really want to be in that place where, year in, year out, you're not setting the same goals over and over and over and over and over again, you need to understand what it takes to walk your goals. And what more can I say? Other than to tell each and everyone who is on the call tonight to step into your power. Step into your power. Commit to the process that delivers the result that you so desire. Don't just desire, commit to the process that delivers it. And the truth of the matter in closing is, when people say, oh, I've done all I know how to do, I've actually done my best, but sometimes you have done your best and your best is not still enough. You have done your best and your best is not what it takes to get that goal on your table accomplished. So you've done your best, but have you done all it takes? Have you done all it takes? Yes, I know you have explored everything within your known, your familiar and latent, your familiar and charted territory, rather. So how about exploring your latent capabilities? Those things that you will be capable of accomplishing if only you give yourselves to learning, if you give yourself to adaptation, if you give yourself to innovation. And that will be my final word with you on today's live stream. Thank you so much for staying till this time. And I also apologize for my voice. This is not my real voice. This is not my real voice, but I know I just had to show up. Yeah, like someone I know said, excuses is the tool of being competent. So I decided to show up, even though it's not perfect. My voice isn't perfect. I decided to show up. And that's the way too, because I have a goal to be here today. And I'm showing up despite this cracked voice, despite this invitation. I've showed up. And I also want to encourage you. Thank you. Thank you, sir. I also want to encourage everyone on the call. Show up no matter what, especially if it's not a matter of death, of life and death. Continue to show up. And until we see next time, continue to make financial decision that supports your well-being. Thank you so much. Okay, please, I asked the question. What is it again? Did you ask another question? Check my chat. Okay, is it the question about unexpected challenges? Say yes if it is. Is it the question about unexpected challenges? Oh, my voice is okay. Oh, interesting. Okay, I'll catch replay. Oh, thank you so much. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much. And thank you for showing up. Until we see next time, this is where we say bye bye.